Let me tell you a story. After I got out of the hospital, I went to occupational therapy twice a week, physical therapy twice a week, and speech therapy twice a week. Although they would overlap, sometimes I would go to the hospital 8 o'clock in the morning and I would have a 10 a.m. appointment and maybe like 1 p.m. appointment. A lot of times I would spend waiting, and at that point in time they had more of a lounge area set up in the lobby. I would sit there, and I think a good measure of human behavior, the behavior surrounding elevator etiquette. And I just think you can learn a lot about watching people near the elevators. And I wish I had a log for all the observations I would make watching people deal with the apparent difficulties surrounding elevator travel. Ridiculous. But when I would need to go to my appointment, approach the elevator, and I would hit the button, and when the elevator came down, me and other people would get on the first floor. And I was going to the 5th floor. Almost without fail, the elevator would stop on the 2nd floor, which is where more people park on the other lot, so ground floor to them would be 2. They would get in the elevator, and collectively we would ride up to the 3rd floor, where it would stop. Again. And the same people that got on at floor 2 would get off at floor 3. This happened without fail every fucking time. Every time. I would always feel a certain way, but I wouldn't really wrap my head around what I was feeling for a while. I was still really in a brain fog, and shit. I wouldn't be able to identify with what I was feeling about the situation for maybe a few weeks. At which point I realized how mad I was that people would interrupt my day. And I think that's, if I asked a group of people, most people would feel the same way. But as a cherry on top, I was really mad that people would be using the elevator to go one floor when they didn't need to. I was disabled. I had spent a month in the hospital where I had to relearn how to walk, during which time I had to ring the nurse button whenever I would need help. They would make me perform for them. Not really, but that's what I felt like. They wanted to supervise me every time I had to get up because I was a fall risk. My goings to and from the main therapy room were in a wheelchair, and I finally, at the end, graduated to a cane. So here I was in the hospital, being minorly inconvenienced, although I felt it was major, and people would only use it to go up one floor. There was probably a week or two when this happened. Every day, it would make me grind my teeth. I would hold on to that psychotic, bloodthirsty feeling. I would literally want to but it would make me so mad. One day I was sitting in the lobby and I thought back to when I was in the hospital. I would look out the window almost the entire day. When I was not in therapy, I wheeled my little wheelchair over to the window and looked out the window. I didn't turn the TV on a single time. I was there over a month. The view from my room, it was ugly. It was nothing good looking. It looked like I almost felt like it was a different world. It looked poetic almost. I would see people walking or just standing there, and I would have made a deal with the devil to just be able to go out there and walk. And I know it sounds so dramatic, but you gotta realize that at this point in time, I truly did not know if I would ever walk again. I never asked that question because the answer could potentially crush me. I didn't want to know. And I definitely didn't want someone telling me it would be okay if it would not be okay. So little by little, I made my progress. But when I looked out that window, it looked like paradise. I remember after a major snowstorm, it was the following day in the morning, everything had a blue tint to it. There was someone standing under the island and I fell in love with this. It was breathtaking to me. Like, I can easily visualize all the very special moments I had looking out this window. Anyways, I could go on for hours about that, but the realization I had was I had spent such a long time wanting to give anything to go out there and walk. It was the most important thing to me. What happened when I got discharged from the hospital? Well, I didn't hurry up and walk anywhere. In fact, nothing really changed in terms of that. Here I was prior having fantasies about just being outside. I got special permission from the team. My girlfriend and my friend Sean, when they would come and visit me, and I would load up in the wheelchair and I would go outside. It was freezing out sometimes, but I would love just sitting there. The cold air felt like forbidden fruit. I can't describe how rich it was at that point in time. It was amazing. Fast forward. I was just a grumpy asshole sitting in the lobby, judging people with their elevator behavior. And when I realized this, it was pathetic. I wanted to give anything to be able to walk again. And when I could, I didn't. I realized in that moment, I was the able-bodied person. You know, walking up the stairs, it's not disabled in terms of I can't do it. It's disabled in terms of some people have a much easier time than I do. And I am constantly waiting on the landing for someone to go around me. But that's okay. This was in April. I made it a vow I would not use the elevator anymore. While I have broken that vow, sometimes I've been late for appointments, and I had to because, you know, walking up 5 flights of stairs, it takes like 10 minutes for me. So I've ridden up the elevator sometimes, but I always walk down the stairs, back up again when I'm done with my appointment. I always do 5 flights of stairs every time I go there, without fail. If I go to an area with a skyscraper, I'm not going to walk the stairs. If I have my way, I won't take elevators anymore because I returned to that moment where I would give anything. To me, it's so important that I take the stairs because I can. And while I'm doing it every time, without fail, I laugh and it makes me happy because I think back to when I couldn't do that. The moral of the whole story, I know, I had people watch my other video and they reached out to me and said, I feel very similar to you and I wish I could do X, Y, or Z. And it made me think of the times within the past few months I've told people the elevator story and what it means to me. The moral of the story is I heard a quote and it stuck with me. And it's kind of related to the elevator story. And hopefully I'll keep both of them in my heart for a very long time. And maybe it'll help people. He didn't because he wouldn't. And not because he couldn't. And to me that, it really strikes home with me. Because when I think about being on the elevator and sitting with those people, going up one floor, I would have done that too probably. And the more you reinforce that behavior, eventually it turns into something you flat can't do. You just can't do it. Maybe for some of these people, they haven't walked up the stairs in so long that now they can't. And I know there's some people who just legitimately can't walk up the stairs. I understand that. That's different. But how many of us lose the ability to do something because we never do it? And I mean, that kind of sounds crappy when I say it that way. But my point is, they're words to live by. I used to play guitar, and on my computer, I have hundreds of songs. I know I show a lot of music to people, or I did. There is stuff nobody's heard, and nobody has heard a finalized version of it. Why is that? It's not because I couldn't. I didn't do it. And now I am in no way able to play what I used to. I'm gonna try to do something about it, but for a lot of those songs, they will never reach what I had in mind for them. And the only reason is because I didn't. I didn't because I wouldn't. I had every opportunity to do that. But back then, my view on the art was it needs art. It needs to be perfect. If it's not perfect, I can't share it. Art is never done. I've had that put into perspective with me. We need to sever our ties at some point and recognize that some things are good the way they are. Anyways, I'm going on a long rant. I just want to tell you, when you talk to your friends, you tell them something. You have an A+ version of yourself that you give to your friends. Yet, when you want to do something, you tell yourself not to. Maybe for some things, you just can't. You couldn't do something. But I would bet with a lot of things in your life, you just won't do it. It's not that you can't. You just won't. I'm the same way. I'm telling you this, yet in my life, there's some things I can definitely do that I have not fully realized within myself. Don't listen to yourself. Give yourself the version you would give to your friends. Give yourself that pep rally. Maybe your friend wants to get into photography and start taking wonderful pictures. You would do anything in your power to see to it that your friend does something that makes himself happy. But if you have an idea in the back of your head, somewhere in that same head, you're going to start telling yourself it's a stupid idea, it'll never get you anywhere, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point. The point isn't if it takes you from New York to Los Angeles. The point is this something you want to try? Is it something that makes you feel good? I have this romantic vision in my head about painting. I haven't painted since I had my stroke, but it's something that for a long time I thought about it, and it was that whole woe is me. I can't do that. Why can't I do that? God, my handwriting is terrible. I was a righty and now I'm a lefty, but there's nothing stopping me. In fact, Matisse had something that really inhibited his ability to paint, but he continued doing it, and it was a very unique stylistic change. And maybe I can't paint a perfect still life, but I find beauty in most moments. There's no reason I can't stylize that in my own way. That is what art is anyways. So I urge you to just do it. I know you can do it. Everyone knows you can do it. The only person doubting you is you. I really want you to focus on switching your perspective. Uplift yourself. And like I just redirected myself, realize when you do that, how often do you get in the way of you? A lot.